You join us on the Pacific coast of California, where we've come to meet the latest incarnation of the Mercedes-Benz SL. Now, the SL has been around in one form or another for the last 62 years, so you could say it's been reasonably successful.
However, the SL is a car that almost never was. The original SL, the 1954 300 SL Gullwing, was modelled on a race car that scored a historic 1-2 finish at Le Mans in 1952, and Mercedes hadn't even considered building a production version until the intervention of a chap called Maximilian Edwin Hoffman. Max was an American-based vehicle importer, and he was absolutely convinced that the American public would fall over themselves to buy a sports car that looked like the racing prototype. So he placed an order for 1,000 cars, not taking no for an answer, and that left Mercedes with little choice but to build it. And thankfully, it turns out that Big Max was right, as he was on a number of other occasions. Through a similar process, he was also partially responsible for the Alfa Giulietta Spider and the Porsche 356 Speedster. Now that is not a bad CV.
That's why we've come to North America to try the newest SL, because without this place, the SL simply wouldn't exist. And because this car is all about glamour, we had to come to the most glamorous part of North America, and that is Los Angeles, California. From here, we'll be travelling south down the Pacific Coast Highway to an even more glamorous location, and we'll be seeing what the SL experience is like along the way here in the car's spiritual home. The only question is, should we go roof up or roof down? Well, that is easy. This is LA, and the only thing more important than being showy is being seen. So what's new about the newest SL? Well, the most obvious thing to have changed about this facelifted car is the face. And let's be honest, here in California, facelifts aren't exactly uncommon. The front end swaps its squat, angular details for curvier, more elongated ones, and we'd say that the changes have really worked. There's also a bit more luxury kit than before, including this infotainment system, which incorporates all the usual stuff like sat-nav, DAB radio, and a Bluetooth phone connection. What's more, if your phone is an iPhone, then you can integrate it fully into the car via Apple CarPlay. And being a top-end Mercedes, you can add many, many thousands to the price of your car by raiding the very extensive options list. All in all, it feels really technologically advanced in here, and it feels pretty darn posh as well. The seats are nice and comfortable, the cabin materials are gorgeous, there's loads of space for myself and my passenger, in this case Dave the cameraman, and there's loads of space in the boot for all our camera gear. So it's perfect for the romantic weekend away with your cameraman. Dave, stop looking at me like that.
Having reached the halfway point of our journey, it's time to stop off for some lunch in some suitably swanky surroundings. Located in the Temecula Valley of Southern California, the Ponte Winery is exactly what its name suggests, but it also happens to have a critically acclaimed gourmet restaurant.
The other interesting thing about this place is its motto, which is, if you like it, then it's good wine. Now, that may be worded like a 3-year-old wrote it, but the overall sentiment is actually pretty cool. It doesn't matter what the conventional wisdom says, whether one wine is better than the other. If you like the flavour, then just drink up and forget about the one-upmanship. It's also a sentiment that you could apply to the SL. Now, you could argue whether the SL is the best luxury convertible out there. You could argue whether it's the best luxury convertible built in Germany. However, when you've got this sort of money and you live this sort of lifestyle, then the truth is, it really doesn't matter, because you can probably afford to have that one and that one, plus plenty more cars besides. Unfortunately for me, I am certainly not one of those lucky people. In fact, I reckon I would struggle to pay for the lunch that I'm just about to eat. It's a good job that somebody else is picking up the tab.
After a slap-up feed, sticking to the soft stuff obviously, we hit the bricks once again, heading south towards our final destination. We've spent quite a bit of time behind the wheel now, so the question is, exactly how is the SL stacking up?
SL has always meant super light, and to that end, this SL uses more aluminium parts than ever before. Despite that though, it's still a bit too heavy and a bit too big to feel like a proper sports car. But to be fair, it's not supposed to be an out-and-out sports car. This thing is very much at its best when it's carving up and down interstates or plodding through a fashionable beachside resort where it's keeping your life comfortable, quiet, and absolutely and perfectly luxurious. The ride comfort is especially good, and if you play with the settings for the adaptive suspension and select a sportier one which tightens everything all up, then you get handling that is really secure and very, very assured. Now, the car we've got here may have an SL450 badge on the boot lid, but in the UK it will be known as the SL400, and it's got a twin turbocharged 3-litre V6 with 362 brake horsepower. Ordinarily, you'll find that your performance is creamily smooth and effortlessly brisk, but on the occasion that you do need to get your clog down, then the 9-speed automatic gearbox will drop itself down a couple of ratios, and it will always find the perfect one for the job, by the way. And then with a little spit from your twin exhausts, boom, you are away and at a rate of knots. Just work it that little bit harder and this thing is seriously rapid. With pace like this, you have to question the need for the V8s and the V12s that you get in other versions of the SL.
So, after a long day's driving, we finally arrive at our last stop, the Hotel del Coronado in sunny San Diego. Now, this might look like nothing more than your average swank hotel, but it is much, much more interesting than that.
The Del, as it's come to be known, was established in 1888 and by the 1920s had carved itself out an enviable reputation as a favoured holiday hangout of Hollywood's A-list elite. Basically, anyone who was anyone in Tinseltown vacationed at the Del. We couldn't even begin to mention all the celebrities that have stayed in this place over the years. There are just far too many of them. But some of the names scrolling across the bottom of your screen right about now should give you some idea of the calibre of the clientele. And I think you'll agree, we are not talking the only way is Chelsea Shore here. I don't know if this place has a guest book, but if it does, it could just be the greatest collection of autographs anywhere in the world. The Del has also starred in a fair few movies itself. You've probably heard of Some Like It Hot, starring Marilyn Monroe, Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis. Well, if this place is looking familiar, that movie is probably why. So, what's all this got to do with the car? Well, as we've seen, this place is about as swank as it gets. And the SL, it fits right in. I mean, we've seen people rocking up in all sorts of exotic machinery since we've been here. Lambos, Bentleys, you name it. And in that sort of company, the SL does not look out of place. So, what is the damage for a slice of this luxury lifestyle? Well, not as much as you might think. Admittedly, this range-topping SL65 model here has the price tag that you're probably expecting, somewhere in the region of £172,000. However, the 400 we've been rocking around in today costs near as makes no difference, 100 grand less at £73,000. Now, admittedly, that is not exactly chump change, but for a lot of people, it's not completely beyond the realms. And does that one look any less glamorous than that one? Not to my eye, it doesn't. So, what does the 65 give you that the 400 doesn't? Well, it does have an even cleverer suspension system. That is one thing. This badge here, this is another, and this piece of chrome trim, that's another one. And the 400's 0 to 62 time is a full 0.9 of a second less at a paltry and frankly pathetic 4.9 seconds. Seriously, for 100 big ones, I'd live with that. During my brief taste of the super rich lifestyle, a taste I'm not likely to have again anytime soon, the SL has been the perfect companion. It is perfect for schlepping up and down freeways from one posh hangout to another, but we reckon it's going to have a whole heap of appeal back in the UK as well. All I need to do now is make my millions.